Recording in progress. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Designated Players Podcast. We are on episode 142. MLS has officially kicked off. What a night it was. The first night of Apple TV was unbelievable. We're going to talk about it. I still speechless at how many great games there were, as well as how great the coverage was. Very, very impressed. We're going to go into a couple different things here today with regards to the beginning of the season and some news that has come out. But I'm here with Connor. Connor, how are you doing? You're on mute. Good
Yep, I
job.
realize that.
Good
Yep,
job.
good start.
Attaboy.
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm all right. We're back here. I'm still recovering from a terrible PK decision that made Red Bull lose because, as we know, Red Bull have the best team in the league, so the league is trying to actively prevent them from being good. So I'm still recovering from stuff like that, which is okay. You know, it happens. The world hates us, but we move, you know?
Yeah, something like that. That's definitely totally what happened.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't play with our DP striker. He didn't make the 18, which we knew was going to happen. 90 minutes of Tom Barlow was not on the docket of what I expected to happen, but it happened. Um,
hmm
we're not here to
And we're all
break
better
down
for it.
games. We're not here to break down games, so I won't dive into it, but I could. Um, but we are here to talk about three things today. Three. Three.
Why do you hold it up like that?
Why not?
Just go.
What if I did? What about that? Three.
Oh yeah, that made it a lot better.
We're going to talk about Apple TV. We're going to talk about all of our thoughts on the way that the production was, the whip around show, the commentary, all of it. Things that can be improved, things that can continue to be great. We'll talk about it all. We're going to talk about the new playoff format announced earlier, like 3 days before the season kicked off. So very MLS of us to decide, hey, we are going to change everything right before the season kicks off, so nobody's prepared. And we're going to talk about the USMNT manager search a little bit. A little bit farther in the past. We're still not really up for it, but we're going to talk about people we think would be a good fit for U.S. men's national team for the 2026 cycle. Before we do all of that, of course, Connor, I got to know what scarf you're wearing, man. Who are you wearing?
You sound like we're at like a fashion show or something. I'm on
Are
I'm
we?
on the red carpet. I'm being asked.
Are we not?
Who are you wearing? I'll tell you who I'm wearing. Week 1 winners FC Cincinnati.
That wasn't even the best win of the week, man.
I know, but you know, I expect many more Atlanta wins this season, so plenty of other chances to break out the Atlanta scarf. You know,
Luckily
definitely
for
didn't predict them in like 10th or something like that.
luckily for me personally, I have a scarf for the best win of the week. It hurts because it should be a Red Bull scarf,
And I'm
but
glad that it's not.
I broke out the Atlanta United. The Atlanta. I gotta close this. God, leave me alone.
I know you're pinging like crazy.
Yeah, that's what happens when you're in a team group chat. Yeah, phenomenal win. We'll talk about that one. Really, two wins. Atlanta and DC were off the charts. Uh, both of them scoring two goals in extra time to win. St. Louis with a massive, massive, unbelievable, according to MLSsoccer.com,
Hmm.
shocking win at Austin in their first ever game. All of it on Apple TV Plus, free to everybody to watch. I'm really interested to see what the numbers are, but I want to ask you what your takes were on the overall picture quality, the overall presentation. I know you sat down and watched 360 for a while. Tell me what your thoughts were.
It's night and day improvement. I mean, come on. I feel like we were in the Stone Ages now, looking back at it with ESPN. I'm so grateful that we're on Apple TV right now. And I mean, even for me, I don't have cable. So this was incredibly convenient for me to just be able to throw on the TV. I got the Apple TV app on there. Everything was like super easy to maneuver to. MLS has like literally its own tab within Apple TV on the app. I mean, that was so convenient. All the content is there. Versus like ESPN, where I gotta like go on the app, go to like ESPN Plus, then scroll a ton so that I can find the MLS games. And then, if it so happens that like Atlanta's playing Red Bull, can't watch that game. Atlanta's playing NYC, can't watch that game. So I think it's just kind of like an overall. I think it was a phenomenal improvement, and obviously we'll dive into a bit more like the details and the features. But I would say just on the like a high level overview, I think it's gonna be a game changer for the league.
It's really tough to pick a spot to start. Um, so, and again, maybe it's the new cool thing that's making me super hyped about it. But goodness me, I mean, this was you put it perfectly, night and day ahead of ESPN. I think they put a game on Fox Sports and they went side by side, the Apple TV versus Fox Sports comparison of the setup. Apple TV had this beautiful, $1 million studio. They were everything was live, and it looked like the guys at Fox had a tarp held up behind them. Like there were two guys just holding up a tarp that was saying like, you know, opening day or whatever. Like it was garbage. And then we moved to the picture quality itself. The first thing I said when I turned on Nashville City was, "Oh my god!" Because you looked and you could see the players' faces, you could see their uh, numbers. I mean, again, maybe that was a connection thing for me, but the quality of the picture is levels clear of what ESPN was. And you're right. The other thing that goes really nicely with that is the fact that Apple TV cares about this league. It has its own tab. Everything is right there. Um, it's not hidden. I remember ESPN Plus. I would have to scroll either through all of the leagues and get like 10 down to find MLS, or I'd have to scroll down to soccer, then past 4 different leagues to go to MLS, and then scroll through all my games. And you're right, the blackouts, ridiculous. The blackouts were so bad. You couldn't watch your favorite team because there was a blackout for your local TV provider, which was fine. But so many people started cutting the cord and forgetting, about any of that stuff, and then they couldn't do that. So it is night and day clear. But my favorite part, and I want to hear your take on this, was the MLS 360 whip around show. Something we have been asking for years. If they were going to play multiple games at the same time, how are we going to be able to follow all of them? You've got Red Zone for NFL that they love to do that type of stuff. This was a game changer for me. And we're going to use that term a lot because it really was. For the first time, we were able to sit down and just get the highlights in real time of what was happening during the game. They played clips from it felt like I was watching NFL Red Zone, but for MLS. And it was phenomenal. And especially this week, because it couldn't have been a better week to do it. In the last 7 minutes of the games, we're jumping between screen A, screen B, screen C, seeing late minute goals go in and everybody losing their mind. It was a fantastic time to do it, and I loved it. I really want to know what you thought.
Yeah, I mean it's such a like fantastic thing to add in, and I was thinking about it earlier today. I'm like, I don't understand why other leagues don't have something like this. Like I kind of really briefly remember that NBC did something with the Prem for that. I want to say it was like the season right before they went to Peacock that they had like a goal zone. And I don't remember if it was just decision day or if it was like the whole season, but it was like such a great feature for them to add in just to like constantly have like some kind of action to be watching because like something is like usually going on. I mean, if you have enough games playing at the same time, something's probably going on. So it was like it's such a great feature for them to add in. And I loved like the kind of casual nature of like everything that was going on, like the chats that were going on. It wasn't like, oh, we have to give this like game by like play by play breakdown of the game. It was like we're just gonna chat MLS related stuff. And then when a highlight pops up, let's talk about it. So I thought that was fantastic. I think one of the best things that MLS 360 is going to bring to the table is to give sports fans like more action, because I feel like there's a lot of times where you watch the games and it can get really like dull and boring. I mean, you and I have live streamed a number of games where that's happened. It's like it's a 1-0 game with like a goal in the 60th minute or something, and it's just like nothing is going on. But with MLS 360, you kind of get rid of that because now you can just focus on the action points. So when like Philly has a 4-1 game, that's 5 goals that you get to watch throughout like the 90-minute span that MLS 360 is like showing. So I think that's going to be a great way to get new people into the sport, because I feel like the stigma with the sport here in the US is that like, oh, it's slow, it's low scoring, it's boring. Okay, well then watch MLS 360. You're going to get all the fun, exciting highlight points.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I imagine that those same people who are saying it's too slow and boring are the same ones who are living for the 0-0 draw for Everton versus Leeds. They just love that type of stuff. But MLS too slow. Um, no, so the other you mentioned the casual nature of it, and that is MLS in a nutshell. Everybody in Europe wants to be these perfect, preppy little, uh, you know, we're going to this game to talk about this, we're going to this game to talk about that, and they have to give the exact This is Sasha Question and BWP just chill, like making fun of
Yeah,
each
they're just
other,
hanging out.
making jokes,
Yeah.
and that's what it needs to be. It's so much. Again, it's more welcoming that way. It's like you're sitting along with a bunch of people just chatting MLS, learning about things, and really you can learn a lot about it, right? You can listen to Sasha Question, 99 assists. I didn't know that before I started. I mean, I probably had an idea, but I didn't know he was on that. And they made sure you knew it throughout the entire MLS 360 by
Oh,
reminding
they
him
made
that he
sure
was.
they made sure he knew it too.
Oh yeah, they didn't let him forget it, right? And again, just things like that they can add the insight to it. They're a great personality, a great team. Um, there are times I wish it was a little more structured and serious. Like I think Taylor Twellman like walking up to the camera and like screaming at it as he's walking off to get like a cupcake or whatever. I think that's a little overboard. But I like how it's not super scripted. I like how it's chill. I like how it's uh you know, it's a bunch of guys and gals sitting around watching soccer, talking soccer. And that's what MLS is. That's what it needs to be. It's casual, it's fun. It is exactly what that is. So that's my take on it. Did
Yeah,
you
no, I would agree
have
with you.
any
I think
I was gonna ask, did you have
I have any
any
what?
quality issues? Any video or audio quality issues?
Uh, um, no, I don't think I did. Not that I can remember, but I think you remember you said something about it. You having a couple issues.
Yeah, that was why I was asking because again, clear of ESPN. The video is better, the audio is better, the commentary teams, by the way, much better. Every single commentary team was a fantastic group of people. So it was really, really cool to hear that. Um, during Vancouver Real Salt Lake, it was like every 5 minutes the audio would like cut out and then like go to a crescendo um, back to like the normal volume. So it would go like staticky and all the way up to normal volume. It'd do that every 5 minutes or so. I mean, the video is fine, but that audio is the only issue. But the reason I asked is because that's phenomenal. The fact that they threw this all together and they got all of this stuff done with only really that one blip, and it only happened to me and not you. Like the production side of it is fantastic as well. It's so good. Um, is there anything you'd like to see them do a bit better? Is there anything you're like, man, I wish? Because it's the first time they're doing this. There are going to be bumps. There are going to be kinks. Is there something you saw that you're like, man, I really wish they did this better?
I'd have to think on that one a little bit more. I don't know if I have anything off the top of my head, but I can guarantee you there's probably stuff that they can do to improve things. I would like to see some more people like get involved in the 360 show. I'm not saying that that won't happen, but obviously we only seen it once so far. But it'd be cool to see some more faces kind of get involved, and I would love to just like see some of these guys' personality like off the field. Just like I knew nothing about like Sasha or BWP like personality wise before last night, but like I thought Sasha was kind of entertaining. Like he was just kind of sometimes he was a bit like unfiltered, but like funny. Not
Yeah,
unfiltered in like a
a
bad
bad
way, but
right,
it's just like not afraid to like joke around and make a joke about something.
right, absolutely. Like I said, for me, I think a couple the commercial breaks going during live play were kind of annoying. Like DC United scored their last goal and we didn't cut to it for 3 minutes because there was a commercial going on. And I get you have to give commercials, like that's the advertising and whatever, but that was kind of annoying. Again, small detail, right? Like we got to see it eventually. It's the same deal. NFL Red Zone does the same thing. What I'd like to see if they go to commercial like that, maybe keep the scoreboard or the running ticker going so that you can keep up to date with everything, keep the advertisement like small screen type of thing. Um, and other than that, yeah, like I said, I like how they were cutting between games and playing them over top. Where I think it'd be cool if they like brought up Nashville, not Nashville, they played first, but if they brought up DC Toronto, they could talk more about the game instead of just about whatever they're talking about. Like they were talking about players getting assists and things from another game when the screen had cut to DC Toronto. So they were talking about like Cincinnati players while DC was playing. You know what I mean? And that kind of again, it didn't take away from anything, but it was kind of like I don't know if it was planned or what have you. I would like to see that a little more lined up. But other than that, I loved it. The other thing I really loved was the pregame stuff. So the stuff they put out like a few days before, where they're previewing the team, they're previewing the season, they're previewing the opponent, the behind the scenes stuff, all of that I loved, loved, loved. That's the type of stuff Red Bull were doing like 2018, 2019 that no other team was doing. And now you got every team doing mic'd up, doing behind the scenes, doing coach interviews, doing player interviews, things you just haven't seen before that give you that, like you mentioned, that personality to the player. The idea that the player isn't just a ball at a foot. It's a brain. It's a person who talks and has this emotion and identity that I think a lot of people don't attribute to MLS players because they don't watch it enough, right? You've got players like you look at Neymar. Neymar's flamboyant and he likes to um, do all these skills and tricks and stuff. And Tepe, from Real Madrid, loved arguing with refs and kicking people, right? Like these people, you knew what they were like. But MLS doesn't have that because we never had that exposure before. So I'm really excited to see where that takes us uh, going forward.
Yeah, I think they have a ton of content on there from what I noticed. I just kind of wonder like how many fans are going to care about a lot of that content. Like I know that they kind of have I saw there was something on like highlighting a couple of key players in MLS's history. I think I saw like uh Carlos Ruiz, I saw Clint Dempsey, I think I saw Zlatan on there. But like if you're I would honestly just kind of guess that like 80%, if not more, of people probably one either like don't know who Carlos Ruiz is or two probably don't care to like learn about his history in the league just because like if you're not a Galaxy fan and you're not a diehard of the league, you're probably not going to watch that stuff, you know.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree. And that was actually my last question on this topic was how much did you think this affected the group? Because I loved it. I know you enjoyed it, and I know a lot of the other MLS fans enjoyed it. But what did the casual think about it. And I would agree with you. I would agree that there's so much there that the casual might have gotten overwhelmed, for lack of a better term. Been like, there's too much here. I'm not even going to bother trying to figure it out. Um, you know, I think maybe the casual soccer fan, like the guy or gal who sits down and is like, man, I really enjoy soccer. Like, I want to know who these people are. I want to know a bit about the league's history and let me dig into it. I think they would enjoy that, but I think the Euro snobs or the people who think MLS is bad, you're not winning them over. So that's why I think this isn't targeted towards winning people over. This is targeted at getting new people to enjoy them. That is where I'm kind of seeing this. And I told you that yesterday. I'm tired of trying to bring the haters over. Let them hate. I don't care. Because here's the end of the deal. We can sit here, we can tell every story on Apple TV, on this podcast, on every podcast known to man. We could put YouTube videos out, we can put it on mainstream media, we could put it everywhere. The person who doesn't want this league to be considered good will always say, yeah, but. Yeah, that was cool, but it's not this. Yeah, that was cool, but it's not that. Yeah, they did that, but Barcelona did it better. Right? They're always going to have some excuse. So stop trying to win them over because they're feeding off of you trying and then failing. They're like, haha, you're always going to be the league that tries and fails, while my league over in Europe that I never get to watch live is going to be superior forever. So just let them have it, right? Let's bring the people who haven't been exposed to that yet into the league. Let's let them grow it naturally. And when I was talking with some of these people in the Reddit thread, we're doing a whole new series. We'll talk about it at the end of the episode. But every time that they talked about getting hooked onto their team, it was when they were at a game live or when they watched it on TV or they experienced something crazy. So let those people, watch the one big game a year, right? The LAFC LA Galaxy at the Rose Bowl, the Hudson River Derby, right? The MLS Cup final from 2022. Then maybe you get 3% of them saying, "Oh, that was actually a really good game. Maybe I should watch another one." And that's how you'll grow. But you can't sit here and be like, "Oh, we did this so that the Euro snobs can love it." Because they're not going to, because they're going to say, "Okay, that was cool," but I can't let them know that was cool. So I'm going to find a way to show them that it was not cool. Because that's the conversation that I've had 9 times this year, and it's February. Like, it's just, I'm over. Sorry, that was way longer of a rant than I intended, but it
That was a
needed to be
rant.
said. It needed to be said.
Well, it was certainly said that.
Thoughts? Any comments on that? You think I'm right, wrong, indifferent?
Um, I mean, I think you're right, but I don't know that they're like putting this content out to try to win over the haters or the Euro snobs. I feel like I almost feel like the goal more so is to try to like maybe feed into the market that watches like the NFL or watches MLB or watches the NBA and try to get them to like start watching the games more, especially because they could take up that Saturday spot, which then wouldn't like conflict with the NFL, which I think would be helpful. But um I also don't know like how much of that market they're going to be able to cut into because I feel like there probably is still a huge chunk of that market that uses cable to like get a lot of their sports because obviously you can watch like you can just scroll through channels and go from an NBA game to an NFL game really easily. But if you're going to go like watch an MLS game, it's not, I mean, do you know our game's still like locally televised? Like is NYC still on Yes?
No. So there's no local television anymore. There is one game a week, I believe, maybe two, depending on the weekend, that is on Fox or Univision or those types of major ones. But the local, like MSG Go or MSG doesn't have them anymore. Yes doesn't have them anymore. NBC South, I think, or NBC Kentucky was the one that I had, or NBC Ohio or Cincinnati, whatever the name was where FCC played. They don't have that anymore. It's all Apple TV or it's the one game a week.
Yeah. Yeah. So then I feel like, it might be tougher for people like that to kind of either want to transition over or to like find it. You know, if they don't have like a smart TV, they may not necessarily want to like go get their laptop or their phone to go download the Apple app to, or well, I guess everybody, if you have an iPhone, you know, it comes with it. But I
Yeah,
think
and
it's going to be hard. It'll be harder for people to like go find it as opposed to just like being able to scroll on your TV and find it like on a channel.
sure, yeah, and I think the numbers really speak to that. And this will be the last thing we do so we don't run off because we can talk about this all day. Um, and we mentioned this number before, but there are 50 million people right now with access to Apple TV, which means that 50 million people, whether they paid for MLS Plus or MLS package or not, have access to the first 3 weeks of this league. They turn it on, they see MLS, there they go, right? 25 have paid subscriptions that 25 million have paid subscriptions that allow them access to that, right? So these people are going to see it for the first 3 weeks, and that is really their chance to try and reel people in. Um, so I don't know if it's necessarily trying to target the people who still haven't cut the cord yet, but I think it's just targeting the people who are already there and just need something in front of them, right? ESPN Plus was a pay proper. This is the first 3 weeks saying, we have a paywall, but we're going to give you a trial, whether you have it, or not. Go on and try it, and that's who they're trying to get, I think. So I don't know. I'm interested to see. I'm really really interested to see the numbers that come out of this um, at the end of the week, talking about how many eyes these games have reached, because that's going to be the deciding factor. Now, it's going to be over a couple months because we all know what happens in the first week of a brand new thing. This thing was hyped up. Everybody loved it. It's going to be, you know, 15% higher than probably what we would expect for a consistent basis. So take the number with a grain of salt when it comes out, but be excited. Shall we advance? Or do you have something else you
Yeah,
want to say?
no, I think we should move on.
You're more than welcome to say things. We can make this an entire Apple TV episode. We can do it.
No, let's talk about some other things as well.
You really
Let's
want. I could
give.
see it in your. I could see it in your face. You want to say it.
No, I
All
think
right.
I think I've run the gauntlet on Apple TV.
Yeah. All right. We'll move on then. Let's go to the new playoff format. So just a reminder of the MLS playoff format that um, changed this most recent way. They've brought back the three-legged or the three-game first leg. 9 teams are going to qualify for the playoffs. They're going to have a wild card round between seeds 8 and 9 in each conference. And then one will play that team, two will play seven, three will play six, four will play five. In that 8-team series, it will be a best of 3 series with a home, away, home setup. Conference semifinals and finals will also go back to single elimination. So it'll be like it was last year. Every game hosted by the higher seed, 1 game elimination. And then the conference final is the same way. And then so is MLS Cup. So really, it's not the biggest change in the world, but they've extended the playoffs again to include over half of the teams. They've added up to 2 extra games that are supposed to make it um, more must-win games, which I think somebody did the math and the percentage actually went down in must-win games with the addition of this best 3 series. I hate this personally, but I want to know what your thoughts are before I continue on.
So it's wild card through spot 9. That's a one game. Oh no, that's a one game, one playoff game, and then just one round is a best of 3,
Yeah, so the
or is it
wild
two?
card is a single elimination game. It's 8 versus 9, winner moves on.
Yeah.
Then that winner plays the first seed in a best of 3 series. So it's home, away, home, win 2 and move on.
Okay. So I think there's part. I know they were talking about this last night on 360, and honestly, I think they kind of like convinced me into it a little bit more than I was originally. There's parts of it I don't like, and there's parts of it I do. The part that I don't like is the fact that 9 teams out of each conference qualify for the playoffs now. Kind of loses the magic of making the playoffs at this point, considering I want to make sure I have the math right here. 1 second.
Go on, math.
Considering over 50% of the teams in the conference make the playoffs, it's kind of ridiculous. 9 out of 15, meaning only 6 out of 15 don't make the playoffs. So I kind of get it in that, like, if you're struggling, I think they mentioned this last night too. If you're struggling, you're sitting in like 11th to 13th, but you're like missing a key player because he's hurt. Like let's say the Galaxy was in like 11th to 13th because Ricky Puig got hurt for a long period of time. Then he comes back late in the season. You're able to make a little bit of a run and sneak into that like wild card spot. Now all of a sudden you're like a dangerous team again, and your season's not over because Ricky Puig missed most of the season. I kind of get it, but I still don't like the fact that so many teams make the playoffs. I mean, even 8 out of 15 is more than 50% of teams making the playoffs. I feel like you could cut it at 7, and then it has more meaning that actually like having a good season, staying healthy, and being able to make the playoffs. But the part that I do like about the playoff format, I do kind of like the best 2 out of 3 because I feel like it gives us more. I feel like more often than not, it will give us the better team moving on as opposed to kind of a fluke, like one-off win moves like a team that isn't, I would say, the better team on, but just was better on the day. So like maybe in the situation like a couple of years ago when Philly and NYC played, and Philly had all the people out with the COVID restrictions. Maybe that's a scenario where if you have 2 out of 3, Philly can like get those guys cleared, and now they're back for the last 2 games. Maybe they win those 2 games then, and NYC doesn't move on because they played a bunch of Philly backups. So I don't mind the best 2 out of 3. That was also something they talked about. I know Sasha mentioned it about them having to play more games. I didn't realize it was just 1 round. I mean, that's not really adding a lot more games. It adds at most 2 games for teams. So, I mean, I guess 3 if you went wild card and then you played like best of 3. So I feel like that's the max is like 3 games. But I don't feel like that's that much. I know they already kind of have busy schedules, but um, we could talk about it at another point in time. But I think the roster rules are more so the problem than the schedule itself.
Not get me started.
No, I know. I don't want to get it down a whole other tangent with that, but
the the one thing I'll say is that Philly game that you mentioned, the Philly NYC, that still would have been a single elimination game. That was the
no,
conference
I know. But
finals.
I was just using. I know.
Nope,
I know it's a conference.
I
I
get what
just
you're
meant
saying.
like if that game was in a 2 out of 3.
Yep, I get what you're saying. I just wanted to point that out. To completely agree. I think it really should be top 7. Even that's still a lot, but really you're going to go and put
Mm-hmm.
6 teams in the playoffs. That's less than half. That's the way I think it should be done. You get top 5 in, and then 6, 7 go to a wild card. So now you're playing 1 versus 6, 2 versus 5, 3 versus 4. That feels more playoffy than 1 versus 8. You know, this isn't March Madness where we get 64 teams and everybody can just play everybody. Um, I think the wild card will be fun. They talk about it, and yeah, you got teams, but the wild card is just an extra game in what was already last year's playoffs, right? You're just doing a single elimination between 2 teams that need to get in. So it'll be. They talk about how much fun it'll be, right? It'll be okay, but it needs to be
Is it
more
like
select.
how much is it really going to be that much fun though? like if you took the teams that finished there in the West last year, you're watching Portland, Vancouver. Is that like really going to get you out of your seat that much to watch Portland,
Correct.
Vancouver in a one-off playoff? Who's then just going to go get stomped by LAFC?
Correct. I think what this might be is to keep more teams in it longer, right?
Yeah,
Everybody
I think
complains
so
like, "Oh,
too.
there's no relegation, so what's the point if you're already in last?" Well, now if we make almost every team get into the playoffs, every team's fighting to the end, right? So I hate that, by the way. Like, if you're out, you're out. And we talked about this.
Yeah,
Use that time to play your young players and give them experience, like DC last year. And look what happened. They let Cudi Pietro play like the last 7 games. And what does he do? He scores a game winner last week. Phenomenal. Off of Fletcher's service, too. You know, anyways, sorry, that's a tangent. Best of 3 is not a football thing. It's not a soccer thing. Best of 3 is basketball. Best of 3 is hockey. Best of 3 is baseball. Soccer should never be best of 3. They tried it MLS 1.0, 2.0, and I hated reading about it. It was the most confusing thing ever. They've made it simple here because nothing can end in a tie and there are no points or whatever. But I just think it is not something that should be put into soccer or football, depending on how you call it. It's
they already kind of borderline have that. I mean, in like every European competition, it's home and away.
sure, but that's what I listen. I'm here for 2 legs, right? 2 legs was MLS 2.0, early 3.0, and I loved it.
Yeah, but then what's the advantage for the team that's the higher seed? There's no benefit to them for doing better in the regular season because both teams get a home game.
So then go single elimination. If I were to rank it, give me double, single, then 3. That's how I would do it. The double elimination or the double leg makes sense if you're using away goals, right? If it's just 2 games, that's one thing. But if it's away goals, it gives the home team a little bit of an advantage, right? You've got the fact that you're playing at home. You're supposedly supposed to be stronger at home. Red Bull 2022. I'm looking at you. You're supposed to be better at home, so you're supposed to be able to score more and concede less, which means when you go away, you can just sit in, prevent them from scoring, and move on. That being said, if you do single elimination, you should just be better and win, right? And that takes away, that's more of a crapshoot. I get it. At the end of the day, 3 of them, you're now asking teams to play 3 games in 5 days, 6 days, however long it's going to be, right? And now that team is now going to need to rely on the depth of their roster to handle these games. You can't have teams running through 90 minutes 3 times a week and expect them to be completely fit. So now you're going to have to rely on the depth of your team. And you've got roster spots that are strictly designed. We're going to get into roster rules. Here we go. You've got roster rules that are designed strictly to have homegrown players in it, teenage homegrown players in 2 of your 30 roster spots. Now, I had this conversation with somebody on Facebook the other day. If we have MLS Next, a league that is designed specifically for the development and the professional exposure of homegrown potential players, why do we still have roster spots that are only allowed for homegrowns? Why do we not make those free roster spots for senior players, for senior minimum players, whatever you want to call them? Why are we still restricting them as developmental homegrown slots when we have teams that are already there? It was a great idea when we didn't have MLS Next Pro or USL teams that we could loan to. That system is already very well defined. So why are we not allowing teams, if this is the way we're going to go with our playoff set, why are we not allowing teams to make their roster properly so they can handle these tournaments? You're asking teams now to care strictly about US Open Cup, MLS Cup, Supporter Shield, Champions League if you're in it, Campeones Cup now, a World Cup style tournament that you might have to play another 7 extra games in, and a playoff series where you might have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more games to win another title. You can't restrict the way that they hold their team together, or build their team rather, and ask them to play 60 games a season. It's wrong. It's purely wrong.
All right, you've completely gone off into roster rules at this point. Um,
Well, no, but
I feel like we
it
should.
ties back. It ties back to the playoff format, right? It ties back to the idea
Well,
that
it
if
ties.
this is the if this is the way we're going to do it, then it has to go hand in hand with the expansion of our roster rules. I'm not diving into the logistics. I mean, I did, but I'm not really trying to dive into it. But what I'm saying is, if you're asking teams to care about 34 games in MLS play, 4 or 5 games in US Open Cup play that can go to extra time, a Champions League run that would involve at least another 7 games, a Campeones Cup that we talked about would cost you another 7 games, and now an MLS run that'll cost you 7 games. You're putting too much stress on these players. Your injuries are going to go through the roof. You're not going to have enough people to filter through because you're only going to have homegrowns left or low senior minimum players left. It isn't. This move needed to come after the change in those roster setups. That's what I'm trying to get at. If this was going to be the way it had to be, this had to be the second move, not the first. That's where I'm trying to go with this.
I don't disagree with you. Yeah, they definitely need to change the roster rules. I don't necessarily think the number of games is necessarily an issue, but I think that they need to change the roster rules so that you can have more opportunity for more players, because I think that would obviously give them an opportunity to rotate, gives younger players an opportunity to play in games and get exposure. I feel like adding all these games is just going to kind of like dilute the meaning of these games, because now, like, I mean, MLS teams were already kind of sacking US Open Cup and just like rotating their team fully. At this point, I feel like you 100% are going to see that across the board. I mean, it's almost like it might as well just be almost like a USL competition at this point, because it's going to be lower league teams playing most likely at full strength against MLS teams who are playing guys who are like MLS next guys, or guys that aren't really much in the rotation, just so they can rest legs, because now they got a league game, or a Champions League game or something like that coming up. So I get it. I definitely think they need to change the roster rules as well. Um, but I was mainly focusing on the playoff format itself, not necessarily the full scope of the season. Uh,
No,
but yeah,
I get
I
that.
mean, I mean, I'll go back to saying that I do like the best 2 out of 3. Uh, I know you say that's not really a soccer thing; it's more of an American sport thing. But I feel like it gives the better team an advantage over the worst team, so it gives you something to play for in the regular season, other than just like supporter shield, and it also helps to prevent one-off results in games where the better team has a bad day. Like RSL in 2021 went to the Western Conference Finals. Are you going to tell me that that means that RSL was the second best team in the Western Conference? Like, I think even RSL fans will agree with you that that's not the case. They were not the second best team in the Western Conference, but they won a penalty shootout against Seattle in the first round to move on, and then they beat SKC. And I'm not saying they don't deserve to be in the conference finals, but they were definitely not the second best team in the West that season. I mean, if I remember right, they barely even squeaked into the playoffs. So I feel like the best 2 out of 3 will, in more instances than not, move the better team on. Like in that case, the Seattle on instead of RSL.
If that's the case, and I don't disagree with you, but if that's the case, then you need to do it for every round. It can't just be one round. Then okay, we're back to single elimination crapshoot. Good luck, right? If that's what you want, if you really want a system that's going to flush out the luck and make it a true test of skill, then you can't do it just once and say, okay, well, now we're just going to move on, right? And
Well, you could do it at the start and then get the better teams into the single elimination, and now you have better games like the game we saw in the championship last year with Philly and NYC. because I mean, if you leave it single elimination the whole time, like yes, you obviously can still get the scenario like last season where you sorry, I meant Philly and LAFC. You get the situation where you have the two best teams that play in the final and they have an insanely good game. That's what everybody wanted to see. But you also have the scenarios where you might get like an RSL or like a Nashville in the final, who's most likely not the best team in the league, and then maybe you don't get the same level of play that we got to see in the last one. And obviously, like that can still somewhat happen, but I think adding in the one best of three kind of will put more of the better teams into these single eliminations and give us more of these better games with like the better quality. Like obviously the fluke games can still happen. If Philly's the one seed, they could still lose to the 4 seed in the conference semifinals. I know what you're saying, but you know, you're not going to add 7 more games on top of this as well. I mean, I think you're really pushing it.
Listen, you're preaching to the choir here. I've been sitting here for years telling you that the playoff system is stupid and Red Bull is the best team in the league, and we don't get any credit for it because we don't win MLS Cup because we can't play in a knockout. I'm not. You're preaching to the choir here, but I don't love the best. I don't love the best of three extension on top of the playoff extension because, again, all you're looking for is a team to get hot at the right time. If you get a team that goes from 11 to 9 on a 10-game win streak at the end of the year, right? Now you're looking at a team that's red hot, going into a knockout round, beating the number 8, winning 2 games against the number 1, and now they're playing crapshoots again. And I get it. It's you're adding another layer of mesh with these extra games. I get it. It's however, I just don't love it. I don't love it because of all the things. If they had done this last year before Campeones Cup was announced, before and without the extension, right? If they just said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 again, 6 and 7 play in game, and then we move, right? No Campeones Cup to worry about. It's a different story. But if they're doing it after the addition of another 7-game World Cup tournament style or World Cup style tournament, plus the addition of more teams in, it just makes the regular season feel kind of right? It makes it feel kind of to me. Because if 9 teams can get in, you're looking, and like you said, what was I'm sure you have it up faster than I do. What was the 9th place team point value last year?
For Eastern or Western Conference?
Yes.
Eastern Conference was 42 points for Charlotte. Western Conference was 43 points for Vancouver.
Sure. So I just pulled it up too. So you're looking at 43 points, a team that was 12, 15, and 7 with a minus 17 goal differential, and a team that was 13, 18, and 3 with a minus 8 goal differential, now becoming a playoff team. It's extensive. It's too much. The cut at 7 was fine. Half of the teams make it. Great. Whoop-de-doo, whatever. Stretching it to 9 just because you want to play in game instead of giving a team a bye, it feels excessive. But
well, maybe teams didn't want to buy either. I mean, we saw what happened 2 years ago in 2021 when both teams who had a bye had a huge stretch of time where they just like didn't play a game, and then they both got knocked out the first time they had to play. I don't know. I don't know the behind the scenes. Maybe they didn't want to buy anymore, but I still agree with you that they shouldn't have 9 teams in there in that case.
Yeah, and I don't think it'll be tough to find people who agree with that take. Now, could they have fixed it where it wasn't such a well, and here's the thing. Let me backtrack one more time. This is my last point on this. You didn't need to add teams 8 and 9 to get rid of a bye. You just needed to make 6 versus 7 the playing game and go from there. You didn't have to add 2 more teams, but you did. That's where my issue is. You could get if the bye was the issue, you can get rid of that just by making the play-in game 6-7. So, well, that was fun.
Well, no, you couldn't do that in that case. Because
You could.
then you have three matchups in the next round, and then what, you have three teams then. You'd have
Oh
to
yeah,
do
you're right.
you'd have to have some kind of, if you're gonna have seven, then somebody has a bye. If nobody has a bye,
Nope.
then you have to have eight or four. It's
Yep,
kind
you're
of
right.
tough.
You're
I get it. It
Yep,
is
you're
kind of
right.
tough.
Nope, I was
Listen,
wrong there. I'll
they're
hold
gonna
my hand
play
up.
around. They're gonna play around with the format, I'm sure, until they lock in the amount of teams that are gonna be in the league. So I don't mind them just continuously playing around with it until they find something they like. Hopefully, before they get to a point where they're like, all right, no more teams in the league.
Here's my prediction, and I'll let you make it if you want, or that we can just move on. They're going to get to 32 teams, 16 in each conference. They're going to go 8 teams total, 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7, whatever. They'll do whatever they want with the three best of three play, whatever. But they're going to go 16 teams, top 8 make it, done, and that'll be the end of expansion for MLS. Personally, that'd be my guess.
Yeah, and I'd be okay with that. I'd be all right
Me
with
too. Me too.
half of them, even though it's still a bit much, but it's probably the best number you can get without like having too little teams or having too many teams. So I think that would be a good settlement. Go
Yep.
with half the teams at 32 teams.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. All right, let's finish this up with a little chat on the USMNT manager search. We do know that technically Greg is still in charge. He hasn't been let go yet. He's just put on leave or what have you. Um, I don't think anybody out here is still Team Greg. So the question is, where does it go? I think we all know that Jesse Marsh is the name that everybody's been throwing around. But we've got some other names to talk about. And I just did a quick Google search, clicked on a few things that people thought about. Here are the names that popped up: Jim Curtin, Steve Cherundolo, Todd Ramos, in the form of MLS, or rather USMNT historicals, right? Zinedine Zidane, who's definitely out. Joachim Low, Germany's former World Cup winning manager, Marco Bielsa, Jose Mourinho, Tata Martino, Hugo Perez, Tite, Luis Enrique, Pep Guardiola, Mauricio Pochettino, and Carlo Ancelotti are just some of the names I've heard thrown around.
Is there
Anybody
any
there
name that
jump out at
wasn't
you?
thrown around? Honestly, I feel like
Let's say
everybody's name
any name that
was thrown
jumps
in
out
there.
at you there. Oh my
I hate
god.
to break it to people. I don't think Pep Guardiola is going to leave Man City to go coach Kellen Acosta in 2026 World Cup.
He might get fired. Might get fired if they were found cheating.
I'm sure he'll go somewhere else before he comes to the U.S.
I don't know. I think
Yeah, I
the
mean
U.S.
that's a
might throw a
long
bag at him.
that's a long list of names, definitely for sure. I
Oh,
would
I missed.
assume that.
Sorry, I missed one. Brian Schmetzer is also on there.
Mm, that makes sense. That makes sense. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if you could put Tab Ramos on that list and not have Brian Schmetzer. um, yeah, I mean that's a really long list of names. They were talking about it a little bit last night. I was listening in on. I thought it was an interesting conversation. All right, actually, I can't remember if it was last night or if I was listening to something else, but I was listening to something recently where they were talking about you really gotta go big for 2026 with a manager. Like you gotta, sell the farm, bring in the perfect guy here because this is your run. I mean, hopefully it's not our only shot at one, but I mean, like the stars are all aligning here, and one of the few remaining stars that we have to put in place is finding the right manager. The team's going to be hitting their prime. We have home field advantage. Like everything's lining up, so we gotta knock it out of the park with the right manager, and it's going to be a tough call. Like I was very much like on board with Jim Curtin being the guy. I mean, he obviously has stated his interest in being the head coach. I mean, he stated that he would be an assistant coach. But I think that kind of shows like how much he really wants to be a part of the team. Which I think would be great from a manager that actually wants to be a part of it, unlike Jesse Marsh, who said he didn't want to be a part of it. But yeah, honestly, I kind of was rethinking over that after hearing that, talking a little bit more about like we really gotta like go all out for it. And I'm like, is Jim Curtin the guy, like the all out guy that's gonna take us to the promised land? I'm not totally sure. I really like Jim Curtin. What do you think? I don't know. I don't think you're super high on Jim Curtin. I mean, I know obviously you're in Jesse's corner. You're a big Jesse Marsh guy for obvious reasons.
What? No. Um, I am a big Jesse Marsh guy. However, I would have had a better feeling if they gave him the opportunity to coach McKinney, Adams, Aronson together. Um, the fact that we're not going to get to see that kind of sucks. I don't see Jim Curtin being number one. I can see him being a really good number two. Like he
Mhm.
knows the game really well. He is great at developing young talent, which is something we need in that group. Um, I don't. So I'm. Here's what I'm stuck with. I know that they're going to want to keep it with inside the USMNT family. I can see it being Jesse Marsh getting a bag thrown at him for 2 years to coach, whether he likes it or not. He's going to say, okay, I can't turn down this money. Jim Curtin's going to come along as his assistant. They're going to do something okay. We'll be fine. We'll do more than okay. But I think the real question is, and I'm going to do a quick search here. Um, there are a lot of people who stepped down from their post in U.S. soccer after this whole Greg thing went down. Like Ernie Stewart's gone. Who else stepped down? Who was the other one?
I can't remember. I know what you're talking about though.
Um, it was Ernie Stewart, and it was
McBride.
yes, Brian McBride. Thank you. I knew it was a player. I couldn't think of who it was. So it leaves really Cindy Parlow Cohn, the U.S. soccer president, in charge, and that's about it. So we really need to put somebody in those positions before we can make this decision, right? We need people who have a vision, a shared vision to create something bigger for the U.S. men's national team before we can just throw somebody in that spot. We know Zidane's out. My guess is Pep Guardiola's out. I don't think Jose Mourinho would come here. I don't want Tata Martino. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't want him. He
No,
didn't want to
I
come
don't
to.
either.
He didn't want to come to us. Now it's like, oh, you got fired from Mexico because you sucked in the World Cup. Come here now. Like, no, that's not the look I want for the men's national team.
Yeah.
Luis Enrique or Tite might be intriguing. Tons of talent that they've had underneath them. Very subpar performances in 2018, but um, I'd be interested to see something like that. I know if we could, and I don't think like Carlo Ancelotti's in the running at all to be lured away from anywhere, but
Hmm.
I'd love to see him in there. And then there are names that haven't been mentioned. Thomas Tuchel, Chelsea guy. Sorry, let me rephrase it. I want him nowhere near Christian Pulisic in the men's national team. I don't need Christian Pulisic playing right wing back. But if we are going to go play people out of position, Ben Olsen is very easily hired away from Houston. Like, I'm pretty sure if you say Ben Olsen, we need Christian Pulisic playing right wing back, boom, he's gone. So if that's the way we're going to go, that's where we're going to go. But I think there are more options than just the big names. I I I would love to see the big names do it, but I think U.S. Soccer is going to go, if he wants it, Jesse Marsh, Jim Curtin combo. That's the way I see it go.
I don't really get why Jim Curtin would step away for an assistant role. I mean, he's built like arguably an MLS dynasty here in Philly. If he was going to jump to something else, I would think he would want to jump to either head coach of the USMNT or jump to something in Europe. I can't see why he would leave the project just to take an assistant's role.
It's so an assistant coach is personally being one, you are still making a massive impact on the group. It's just you're not the guy answering the press questions, right? Like you are still there tweaking with game plans and tweaking with um, film study and trying to find the right answer to all these things and understanding your team. There's so much that goes into it. So it's not he's just going there to sit on the sidelines. He's just not making, and even then he is still making decisions. He's going up to whoever the head coach would be and say, hey, this guy looks gassed, or this analytical reading is saying he's reached his max number of sprints. We got to get him off, right? It's not like he would go and do nothing, but I understand your point. Like you've done so well as a head coach, why take a step down, right? Um, I don't want Tab Ramos anywhere near there either.
No.
Ah,
Steve Trundle is way too small of a sample size to give him the reins for 2026.
Yep.
No.
I completely agree. Yeah, I don't know. I really want to see what we can do, but I'm going to go back, and this will be our last, at least my last point here. I want to go back to something you said last season, maybe 2 seasons ago for us, about the type of coach we need that goes with the players that we have. Greg Berhalter, a good MLS manager, trying to manage high-level European-based players. They're two different systems, they're two different styles of play. It's not anybody's fault. They just weren't a good fit. And he did a good job. And we've talked about it before with the whole this never happens again. We're going to run through walls. We're going to work hard. We're going to be strong defensively. We're not going to let things happen. We're going to make the World Cup and we're going to get out of the group stage. Great. We did it. Job done. But to get the best out of these players, to get the best out of the players that are playing at the highest level, that are learning at the highest level, you need a coach that understands. Now, I don't know what sort of license that Greggy Boy has, but there's a massive difference between the US Soccer A license or the Pro license and the UEFA Pro license. They're two very, very different licenses because they teach two very, very different things. And just saying that, you need to be able to understand the style of play that they are to get the best out of them. He does have his UEFA A, it says. So he supposedly understands that, I guess, from when he worked in Sweden all those years ago. But I don't feel confident with somebody in the MLS pool coming out. I think Jesse Marsh might not be a great fit for them. I don't know if his high press Gegenpress Red Bull energy drink style soccer fits this team. Do I think he can be more adaptable than Greggy did? Yes. I think he's smart enough to be adaptable and play football in a different way, especially with Jim Curtin as an assistant. But is it time that we look at somebody international? Do we look at somebody, Klingsman was the last international guy we had. What do we look at him again? Not again, sorry, but do we look at something like that? We bring somebody in from the outside with different ideas that can get different things out of our players, right? We've tried the US based system for so long. What can we do differently?
Jurgen was like the opposite problem that we were having now, where it was just like all MLS team, but a European style like coach. And I feel like the tactics were I feel like the tactics were all over the place. You had people playing like way out of position. But the one thing I feel like I remember from his time in charge was I feel like he was pretty good at recruiting guys to play for the US team. Like good potential between like Germany and the US kind of situations.
Yeah. Um, yeah, he had good connection with the German Americans, but you mentioned that whole thing about mainly MLS teams. I mean, I'm looking at this 2014 World Cup roster that he took. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 players out of the 23-man roster were MLS players. Everybody else was outside of MLS. So,
How many of those guys outside of MLS though played a number of years in MLS or got their roots in MLS?
um,
Because I mean, it I don't know if we can compare. So, like if Ali Bedoya was still at like Nantes, like actually I don't remember where Bedoya started. I don't know if Bedoya
he
started
was
in
yeah
MLS.
he didn't. I don't think he started in MLS, but I'm
I feel
looking
like
here.
he didn't either.
Not many players started in MLS. I mean, Tim Howard did. He was a Project 40 kid.
Mhm.
John Brooks didn't. Jeff Cameron might have. So a couple of them, but again, they had most of their experience overseas. So now we've got most of these kids who are MLS making the jump, learning that style at a young age, and now coming back in the prime of their careers, knowing this style for the last 4 years. This is where we need somebody who can make that impact with the European style, I think. This isn't because we don't really have a big mix, right? You're looking at the top 25 guys, they're all overseas. You've got maybe 1 or 2 MLS guys that might break in there at any given moment. But the majority of our players are all overseas guys. It might be time to go international, and that's kind of where I'm leaning right now. Maybe a Bielsa, maybe a Enrique. Luis Enrique would be a really cool shout. He's available too. He left Spain.
Yeah, I would definitely be on board with that one. Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking back to like how we talk about Greg and his tactics being very MLS, and I feel like one of the things that we were pretty good at as a team under Greg was being pretty like disciplined defensively. Obviously, our issue was in the attack. I mean, we were absolutely dreadful in the attack. But if you look at the players that were starting majority of games for us and where they played previously, our like core defensive triangle, the double center back goalkeeper split was like MLS, either MLS started, MLS current, or like previously played in MLS. Like they definitely I think they understood what Greg was probably going for versus the attack, which was like Sargent, Pooley, Gio, Weah, who've never done anything in MLS.
Right.
I feel
No,
like I feel like that's probably where you see like his system worked with the guys that understood MLS to an extent. I'm not saying it was perfect or anything, obviously, but the attacks was dreadful because these guys don't play that style of play, which is why I agree with you. I think that we should look for something international so then we can like I think by 2026 so many of these guys are going to be in Europe or having been playing in Europe for years at that point. So I think we should get someone who's going to build a system to support that rather than just go with a guy that has good connections with the soccer federation.
yeah, I think that's spot on. Like I said, I think of all the takes you've put on this show in the last 142 episodes, that take has always been your best. I think you got a really good handle on that. So I'm on board with you.
Thanks. I
And
appreciate
that
the
is
compliment.
my compliment for the year. No more.
I
Uh,
think you said that a couple episodes ago, actually, if I remember right.
I'm getting nice. I'm getting soft.
You are
I'm gonna
getting
go
soft.
run through a brick
I
wall or
don't
something.
like it either, honestly.
All right, we'll end it there. We've gone on for a little bit here. I want to thank everybody for listening. Thank everybody for tuning in. Make sure you go follow us everywhere you get your podcasts so you know when this episode and all of our episodes go live. Make sure you're following us on social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. We're posting tons of content, interacting with you guys all the time. Really, really great. Want you to keep doing that. Um, should we announce before we leave our new series coming up?
You could drop a little hint,
All right,
a little
yeah.
teaser.
So one of the things that you always hear, and I think Apple TV is starting to kind of try and deal with it, is MLS doesn't have a history. We're too young to have a history, so nobody wants to talk about the early days. Well, here at the DP Pod, we know that just simply isn't true. We know that each team has unique parts of themselves, whether they started last year or 28 years ago. They have unique parts of their history that need to be told in order for people to understand what this league is about. So that's what we're going to do. We are collecting data from tons of different people in Reddit threads and online about things that they want to see and things that they want to hear about. And we are going to tell the story of the history of MLS, team by team, story by story, episode by episode. So make sure you are subscribed to hear all of that because that is going to be a very, very fun series. You are going to hear stories you never knew existed. We never knew existed, actually, by the time we were talking about this. Um, you're going to learn. You're going to learn a ton, and that's what we're going to do. So make sure you're following us everywhere you get your podcast. Make sure you're following us on social media, and make sure you're interacting with us because that's the best part of all of this. So, anything else you want to say, Connor?
Nope, nothing else for me.
No, me either. So that is going to be us done. Thanks so much, everybody, for listening, and we will see you on the next episode of the Designated Players Podcast. See ya.